Welcome, everyone, to today's Explainer. I am so incredibly excited to be with you right now because today we are completely breaking down the data, the form, and the raw numbers behind four massive World Cup matchday fixtures. And even more fascinating, we're going to uncover the incredible hidden value behind what is quickly becoming the absolute defining trend of this entire tournament, and that is the late goals strategy. All the market data we're looking at today is sourced from a brilliant online breakdown of these specific fixtures. There is just so much value hiding in plain sight today, so let's jump right in. Okay, let's map out exactly what we're covering. First up, Spain versus Saudi Arabia, followed by Belgium against Iran, Uruguay taking on Cape Verde, and Egypt facing New Zealand. Finally, we'll cap the whole thing off by unpacking exactly how that late goal phenomenon actually works. Section 1, Spain versus Saudi Arabia, must-win reality. The pre-tournament favorites find themselves in a wildly high-pressure situation after that frankly shocking 0-0 draw with Cape Verde. Now look, whenever heavy favorites stumble like that, the rumor mill inevitably kicks into overdrive, right? There have been some unverified match-fixing allegations floating around, which were partly fueled by a few anomalous polymarket betting accounts from a small region in Spain that bet heavily against their own team. But let's be absolutely clear here. These are strictly unverified rumors. In this explainer, we really don't entertain rumors. We strictly look at the raw data and the actual market anomalies. Regardless of all that outside noise, the data presents a really stark reality. Spain literally must win to keep their World Cup hopes alive. Dropping points here, it's simply not an option for them. If they fail to get a result against Saudi Arabia, they're staring down a towering challenge with a notoriously tough match against Uruguay up next. So, you can absolutely expect a fiercely aggressive Spanish side today. And you really have to consider the staggering number, 27. In their very last match, Saudi Arabia faced an overwhelming 27 shots against Uruguay. 10 of those were actually on target. Now sure, their goalkeeper had an absolute blinder of a game, but relying on your keeper to somehow stop 27 shots against a very angry, very desperate Spain, yeah, that is just not a sustainable strategy. This means Spain's attacks, specifically highly active players like Lamine Yamal, are going to see a massive volume of opportunities. Now what's genuinely fascinating is how the markets are pricing all of this. Yamal getting just one single shot on target sits at 2.37 odds, which is brilliant value when you remember those 27 shots Saudi Arabia just gave up. But if you're looking for a straight Spain win, the return is a pretty meager 1.1. However, if you combine a Spain win with a late goal, meaning a goal scored anytime after the 78-minute and 59-second mark, those odds jump to an outstanding 1.95. Why is that? Well, because that late goal could technically be scored by Saudi Arabia as a late, meaningless consolation. The math here gives you massive leverage just by banking on late-game action, no matter who scores it. Moving on to Section 2, Belgium versus Iran. Fatigue meets firepower. Belgium looked incredibly leggy, really slow, and just generally underwhelming in their recent game against Egypt. Now they're up against a highly motivated Iran squad. However, we do have to talk about the physical toll on Iran, leaving absolutely all geopolitical matters totally out of it. Iran is operating under a really strict fly-in, fly-out travel protocol for this tournament. That's an inherent logistical disadvantage. They have to travel in right before the game and then immediately fly out. That completely disrupts recovery, training routines, and sleep schedules. So while Belgium looks a bit leggy, Iran has a very genuine physical hurdle to overcome here. But definitely don't count Iran out. And here is exactly why. 13. Iran has scored an extremely impressive 13 goals in their last 5 games. They just came off an absolute thriller, a 2-2 draw against New Zealand. They unequivocally possess the firepower needed to breach a tired Belgian defense. Honestly, this matchup just screams goals from both sides. So how do you play this? The structure of your strategy here is completely vital. Instead of lumping both teams to score and a Belgian win into one risky accumulator, you want to split it up. First, you place a single bet on both teams to score. Then, you place a totally separate single bet on Belgium to win. And here's the magic in step 3. Doing it this way retains your bookmaker's early payout feature protection. So if Belgium goes up 2-0 early, boom, your win bet is paid out. Even if Belgium totally collapses after that and Iran ends up winning 3-2, your early payout is completely safe and your both teams to score bet hits as well. It's just a brilliant way to protect your position. Section 3, Uruguay versus Cape Verde. Avoiding the trap. Uruguay is heavily favored here, with most signs pointing to a comfortable 2-0 win. But the betting markets are laying a very specific trap. The trap is betting a Uruguay win combined with under 3.5 goals at 1.86 odds. The bookies are heavily factoring in Cape Verde's 0-0 draw with Spain, which makes the under look really attractive. But think about it. If Cape Verde manages just one lucky, totally random goal, suddenly Uruguay needs 3 just to win the match, and your under 3.5 bet is completely ruined. The reality is that a Uruguay win combined with over 1.5 goals is a significantly safer, much smarter mathematical approach. And here is another absolutely crucial takeaway for this specific match. This is a game where you want to skip the late goal market entirely. Because Uruguay is so heavily favored to control the tempo, this could easily be 2-0 by halftime. Once those second-half hydration breaks pass, Uruguay will likely just manage the game, pass the ball around, and kill off the clock. That pure, chaotic desperation we usually need for late goals, it simply won't be there. On to our final fixture in Section 4, Egypt versus New Zealand. Upset alert, Egypt walks in as the favorite, but there is incredible value hiding in the underdog. When you compare their recent form, yeah, of course Egypt has massive superstar talent like Mo Salah and Omar Marmoush, but they've really only looked good in brief little bursts. In fact, they've only won 2 of their last 7 matches. Contrast that with New Zealand, who just pulled off a highly impressive, wildly physical 2-2 draw against a really potent Iran side. Egypt simply shouldn't be blindly trusted to just dominate this match from the first whistle to the last. This brings us to a really fascinating little bookmaker quirk. A New Zealand +2 handicap gives you great coverage. But if you believe Egypt ultimately wins a close one, there is actually a separate market for Egypt win by exactly 1 goal that pays out at 3.40. It's mathematically the exact same outcome as the handicap combo, but the bookies are essentially offering you better free value on the winning margin route. Always look for these little inefficiencies. They add up. Section 5, the late goal phenomenon, why time is on your side. Let's pull all these threads together. We've mentioned it a few times today, and it is truly the absolute most consistent trend we are seeing across the matches in this tournament. The mechanics behind why this keeps happening are just beautifully logical. First up, mandatory hydration breaks are stretching the physical clock of the game out. When you factor those in with standard stoppages, we are frequently seeing 20+ minutes of added gameplay being tacked onto these matches. It's wild. Second, this group stage format means desperate teams are throwing absolutely everything forward to chase vital knockout qualification points. And finally, because bookmakers are scrambling to adjust, the time thresholds for what actually qualifies as a late goal are dropping. Get this, in the Egypt game, a late goal counts any time after the 73rd minute. That gives you potentially 25 minutes of high desperation football to get just 1 single goal. Which leaves us with this somewhat provocative question to ponder. When hydration breaks and pure chaotic desperation are adding 20 extra minutes to a match, is the final whistle actually the most predictable part of the entire game? It completely changes how you have to view the last quarter of a match. Instead of the game winding down and dying out, it's actually opening wide up. I really encourage you to rethink how you watch these final stages and explore these odds and data points for yourself. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep your eyes on the data, and I will see you next time.